I'm using the second edition of the all-new Square Foot Gardening by Mel Bartholomew as a reference to build a raised bed and to make Mel's soil mix. The book is well written and helpful, though it skips around a bit. You can use this video as a quick start guide to build and fill your first square foot garden. I'll be building a 4-foot by 8-foot bed, but will also provide information to build a traditional 4-foot by 4-foot bed. Pick a location for your bed that gets 6 to 8 hours of sun daily. Keep in mind that the amount of sunlight changes throughout the year. Stay clear of trees and shrubs where roots and shade may interfere. Puddles should not form after a heavy rain. If the bed is longer than 4 feet, consider directional orientation. If possible, orient the bed in a north-south direction. As the sun moves across the sky during the day, shadows will form in different places. If this direction is north, then in the morning there'll be shadows in this direction, around midday and noon in this direction, and later in the day in this direction. Tall plants, or if you have climbing plants up a vertical frame, could block sunlight to smaller plants. Remove any sod from the location selected for the bed. If there is some lead time, cover the area with something to block the sun to kill any vegetation. Level the area as best you can. Make final leveling adjustments when the frame is put in place. I have 3 8-foot length 2x6 boards. If your bed is 4 feet by 4 feet, you'll only need 2 8-foot long boards. To make construction easy, select lumber that is straight. Put your eye up to the end of the board and eyeball it in this direction. Then check this direction. Make sure there aren't any large knots within 2 inches of the ends of the boards. Measure the lengths of the boards. These aren't exactly 8 feet long. The ends are likely cut square, but it's a good idea to double check. To make my 4-foot by 8-foot bed, I'll cut one of the 8-foot boards into 2 4-foot sections. If it's a traditional 4-foot by 4-foot square foot garden, cut the 2 8-foot boards into 4 4-foot sections. If the garden is going to be placed on top of a non-dirt surface, then cover the bottom with a piece of plywood. If avoiding tree roots, you'll also want to put a plywood bottom on the box, then place many bricks underneath the bottom of the box to elevate it so the tree roots can't grow up into the box. To prevent the dirt from seeping through the joint between the bottom and the sides of the box, run a silicone bead around the entire perimeter of that joint. Transfer the board thickness onto one end of each of the 4 boards. Use exterior screws that are about twice the length of the thickness of the boards. Try to buy screws that don't have threads for the thickness of one of the boards. If this part of the screw is smooth, when you drive the screw in, it'll suck the 2 boards together and it won't leave a gap between the 2 boards. Select a drill that's about the same size as this shaft. Drill 3 holes on one end of each of the 4 boards. After the holes are drilled, assemble the box. Assemble the box on a hard, flat surface. Patios and driveways have a slight pitch to allow water to run away from the building. Drive one screw through a board until the point just emerges on the other end. My porch has a pitch, so I put shims under the 8-foot board, and I made sure it was level. With both boards level and square, drive the first screw into place. Recheck that the corner is still square, and then drive the other 2 screws into place. I'll continue to use that procedure for the rest of the corners. The first corner is overlapped this way. The second one gets overlapped like this. The joints should overlap in this fashion. Carry the finished box close to its final location. Use the box to measure out some weed cloth. Lay the cloth down beside the box, then flip the box on top of the cloth. Mel's mix is made up of 3 ingredients. 1/3 coarse vermiculite. I bought this at one of the big box hardware stores. I have found that for half the price of what I paid at the big box store, I can get it at a swimming pool supply store. 1/3 peat moss. This 3 cubic foot bag expanded to about 6 cubic feet. The other third is compost, which Mel recommends that you make yourself. If buying compost for soil diversity, Mel recommends using 5 different sources. I'll need 16 cubic feet of Mel's mix to fill my bed. If the bed is 4 feet by 4 feet, you'll need 8 cubic feet of mixed soil. I have 3 66-quart plastic bins. One of these bins holds about 2 cubic feet. I'll mix 1/3 of my compost and 2/3 of the store-bought compost. For the compost portion of my mix, to fill my 4 by 8 foot bed, I need 5.3 cubic feet of each of the 3 ingredients. Because one large batch will be too heavy for me to handle, I'll make 3 batches, about 1 3/4 cubic feet of each ingredient per batch. To fill a 4 foot by 4 foot bed, you'll need 2.6 cubic feet of each of the 3 ingredients. After the ingredients were uniformly combined, I used a bin to transport the mix to the bed. When the mix on the tarp was light enough to carry, I dumped it into the bed. Mel recommends adding the mix in layers and then watering each layer after it's been added. Everyone doesn't put grid work on their square foot garden. However, Melvin already thinks he's getting a deluxe litter box, so I'll be putting grid work on top of mine. I have 7 8-foot length 1x2s. A grid for a 4 foot by 8 foot box requires 7 4-foot boards and 3 8-foot boards. A 4 foot by 4 foot garden will require 3 8-foot 1x2s cut into 6 4-foot pieces. Dry fit the grid work, and you won't get this perfect because the boards aren't perfectly straight, but you should be close. Use a measuring tape and eyeball that your grid work is centered on the foot marks. I have some leftover stainless steel 1 5/8 by 7 screws, and I'm going to screw those into the intersections of the grid work. They will poke through a little bit, but that'll be in the bottom, and I'm not worried about it. I clamped the grid work intersections, pre-drilled holes, and then drove the screws into the intersections. To hold down the grid work, I drove a screw in each of the 4 sides of the frame, and then I used wire ties as fasteners. I didn't have this idea until after the mix was in the bed, so I had to move the mix out of the way to drive the screws into place. I hope you found this video helpful. A thumbs up is always appreciated. Click on the channel name, Know How Now, to find other videos. And thanks for watching.